Hello again. I thought today I would show you some of the books I've been reading lately. I used to read a lot when I was younger, and now that I'm older, I haven't really read the last few years. I stopped doing it as much, and it's something I'd like to get back into, and I am getting back into a lot. So I've read all 7 of these books. Well, 6 of these. I've just started this one this year, but I've also listened to Sense and Sensibility as an audiobook. I listened to The Red House Mystery by A.A. Milne, who is the author of Winnie the Pooh, and it's a murder mystery, and it's actually a really fun one. Quite simple, but I enjoyed it. It was a funny little one to listen to. You can listen to it on Spotify if you're interested. And then I also listened to Matilda. So, yes, I thought I'd go through these one by one. So, the first lot, and how I started the year, is with these 3. This is the His Dark Materials trilogy, and at the start of last year, I watched the BBC HBO series of The Northern Lights and Subtle Knife, so I was very interested in seeing how the book was, and I had no idea what was going to happen in the Amber Sky Glass, so that was very fun. But I really enjoyed The Northern Lights. It was my favourite one. I thought it was really fast-paced and interesting, and I love the world in these books. I love who wouldn't find it interesting? The whole idea of demons, of you having like a little friend who's with you at all times. I love that concept, so I was really interested in this book, and I liked being in the world. The other 2 books I didn't quite find as gripping. I liked Will's character, but I found them a little bit slower paced, and they weren't as interesting to get through. But I'm very happy to have read a whole series of 3 books, particularly when this one is quite a big book for me. It is 548 pages long, and that is, I've not read many books that long, so I was very proud of myself to get through this. These are aimed at younger readers, but I would say they're more of not quite older readers, but there's a lot you'd miss as a child in these. They're quite philosophical, and I enjoyed that aspect, but they were quite dark, actually. But I have definitely decided I enjoy reading books aimed at younger audiences. I find them far more... When I'm reading, I like it to be an escape, it to be fun. And interesting, and like a world I can escape to. And I find a lot of books that are for older readers and for adults, adult fiction, tend to be quite in real life, and I don't want to read about that as much. So I enjoyed the fantasy of these. I think this is my favourite cover of the 3. Every time I go to Waterstones, have a nice look at all of the different covers, and they do some graphic novel editions and all kinds. It's very interesting. These all go in this box. I'm just kind of tapping on everything, and I hope I'm not whispering too loud. I'm not actually using my microphone today. Because I found that it wasn't picking up the sound that nicely or better, and I have to sync my videos back up because my phone records differently. So hopefully I'm loud enough in this. So I found it was actually picking it up quite nicely when I tested. I tend to read a little bit in the morning if I can, and a little bit before bed. If I remember, I could give myself time because I like to write a journal as well. But I have been reading at work in my lunch break on a Sunday. It's the only day that I am in work long enough to have a lunch break. And I like to read my books. So actually, I realised I read another book. And it's not here. But I will skip forwards to the next book that I have here, which is the Thursday Murder Club. Got a little penguin there. I think that's Penguin Random House. And I really enjoyed this book. It was a lovely read. It's a murder mystery, as you probably guessed, and it was clever and it was interesting and it was funny, and I enjoyed it a lot. I didn't want to put it down. I found it very interesting. I keep saying interesting. But I really wanted to read it, and I really loved it, and I love the characters. They were such lovely characters. They were all very sweet and different. It's set in a retirement village, and all of the characters are nearly in their 80s, I think. And it's quite an unlikely group of people, but it's lovely. I do love with this cover the hand lettering, or the lovely writing of this. It's very, like, if you look here you can kind of see like the jaggedy bits where it looks like ink, and I love that. This book I actually bought for my dad for his birthday a couple of years ago, maybe Christmas, and I got him the next book in the series, and he read it, and then my sister read it, and then they decided they said it'd be good for me to read. So here I am, having read it now, and I might read the next one if he's read it. I'd like him to be the first person to read his own books. I like this. It had very short chapters, which made it very nice to just read a couple of pages. I always try to just read at least a page every day, because I think a page is achievable. So sometimes I get into bed, and if it's 11:30, or I've not got much time left, I'll just read quickly before bed. Just a page, just enough to fit it in. I use Storygraph to track my reading, and so I've been keeping my streak up. I'm on 70 days now, which I'm very proud of. But this next book, and I will show you, I've got 2 other Cassidy books. these are definitely for younger audiences, therefore I think they're marked as 9 plus. But they're some of my favourite books from when I was younger, and I love them, and I've loved rereading the ones I have so far. So this one is Scarlet by Cassidy. And it's a lovely little story. It's very cozy. Cassidy's books are kind of the same kind of vein as Jacqueline Wilson books. They're always people, well, children, teenage, young, tweenage girls who are having family troubles or are in a situation they didn't think they'd be in. And they're very cozy, kind of positive. They're sometimes quite sad, and the situations aren't the best for the poor girls, but it kind of gives you hope that they kind of overcome and learn and develop as people, and it's very sweet. This book I actually got, as with a lot of my books when I was younger, I would pick them up at school fairs from the toy store, and they'd sell them for like 5p, 50p, 20p. So this one is actually, I think, somebody's old library book that they didn't return. So we've got the romance sticker and the F, I think, for fiction, and Cass for Cassidy. Cassidy. Which is very amusing. I realised years later it was a library near me, in a school, but I don't think they'd want it back, as it was last checked out in 2010, to give you an idea. I love that this book is shiny. I'm an absolute sucker for a nice book cover, particularly a shiny one. And the next Cassidy book that we have is Dizzy. These books are lovely because I can read them quite quickly. I read Scarlet in 2 days, and I probably could have read it in one had I sat through and read it full, but I like to break up my reading. It gives me time to process what I've read and to do other bits and pieces. But Dizzy, I think, is Cassidy's first book, and it's actually a very good book for a first book. I always think you can't always notice when a author's book is their first book, because the good ones at least always come in quite strong. But I imagine they probably wrote a lot of other books before they got to the one that you're reading. It's their first published book, but I'm sure they've been trying and learning. It makes me want to start writing again. But this one's also got the lovely shiny cover, which is beautiful. And this one's a lot more sad, so it made me want to cry. It was a very bittersweet ending. And I wanted more from the characters. I wanted to see more of them. So it's 211 pages, so another short one. And then the last book I have, I'm currently reading, I just started reading it today, there's my bookmark. This book, once again, I got from a stall, and it rained at the summer fair that I got it from, and it was caught out in the rain. So as you can see, it's a little bit wobbly and puffy, but you can still read it. It's still legible, and I love that. And it's a good book. I love this book. Once again, I love all these books. Cassidy. This one looks more like Scarlet, so I imagined it was published slightly differently. And it's called Indigo Blue. And I love the colour themes in these books. In this one, the mum loves the colour blue, and so everything she has is blue, and I would love that. I would love to have every room in my house be coordinated and all the same colours, like a completely green room. But the only thing is, I would do my whole house like one colour, like all green, but I can't decide on my favourite colour. I like to change the colour too much, so I end up with a little bit of a rainbow house. Plus my partner likes minimalism, not so much minimalism, but he likes black and grey and white and things that coordinate, and I like clashing colours and bright colours, so we have a nice little mishmash, but not enough to have a fully coordinated room. I've got one more Cassidy book to read after these, which is Angel Cakes, which is a hardback. I'll show you another time. Maybe when I've read my next lot of books, I'll give you a little tour. Currently, I am reading all the books I've read are books that I own, except for his dark materials. Those belong to my partner, so I'll probably take them home with him, because they might be his mum's. But these are all old books off my bookshelf, and once I run out of books off my bookshelf, I will probably go to the library, which I love the library. I used to go to the library all the time, and now my local library isn't open very often, which is a shame, but I think it's lovely to go to the library and pick out some books. And the good thing is, if you don't like them, you don't have to worry about losing any money. And if you do like them, I always think it's nice to read a book and enjoy it. And if you really love it, then you can go out and buy it, and you'll have it to keep forever for when you want to read it in the future. So see, we've got the big Cassidys and then the little one. This book feels a bit different, but that might be because it's not quite as battered as the other two. Actually, this one is kind of a matte. It's not shiny. I wonder if it washed off in the rain. The shiny. I love it. It's definitely shiny at the bottom. But yes, that's a little look through at my book collection, what I've been up to reading. What books did you read when you were younger that were your favourites? I've only read these three Cassidy books and Angel Cakes, and I'd be interested to know if anyone's read any of the other ones. And what were your favourite Cassidy books? Would you recommend any more to me? Should there be any more I should go out and read? But yes, I hope this has been a fun little relaxing tour, and I will see you soon.